Hello and welcome back to the Daily Bible Summary, where the goal is to renew your mind as we read a new chapter every day and ask, what can I learn? Today's episode is entitled More Than Real Estate. If you've read chapter 23 from Genesis, let's get started. This chapter opens up with a really sad note, and yet it's one that we know that's coming for all of us. Sarah has died. The wife of Abraham, the mother of Isaac, and in a sense the mother of faith, has died at 127 years old. Now, she's the only woman in the Bible whose age is recorded at death. And we can calculate that Isaac was 37 years old when Sarah died because of that. He was still a young man. And if you don't think 37 is young, you haven't reached that age yet. Abraham surely has dealt with death before. He has servants, and he's buried his brother and father. But now he's looking for a place that is special, a place to call his own. Because up to this point, God has given him no piece of the land as his own, just the promise that it will belong to him and his children. As the mourning process for Sarah continues, Abraham goes to the Hittites. These are the principal inhabitants of the land, and seeks to buy a burial plot. He identifies himself as a sojourner and a foreigner among you. Now, this is affirmed by the writer of Hebrews in chapter 11, who tells us Abraham lived as in a foreign land, because he was looking forward to the city that has foundations, whose designer and builder is God. That's Hebrews 11, verse 9 and 10. Abraham did not consider this physical land to be his final destination. Still, the realities of this life need to be tended to, and so Abraham asked the Hittites to appeal to Ephron to sell him the cave of Machpelah. The negotiation process of this culture is different from ours, but you could still see the progression. First, the Hittites offer Abraham any of their burial plots, but Abraham wants one for himself, where his own family can be buried alone. They assure him that anyone would be happy to give him a piece of the land, so he asks for Ephron's land, a piece at the end of his field. And he also says he will pay the full price. Ephron tells Abraham, just take the cave, but Abraham again says he'll buy it. So Ephron says, 400 shekels of silver, what is that between you and me? And Abraham promptly pays that amount. Now, what might be read as, I don't need 400 shekels of silver, just take the cave, was possibly an opening bid of the negotiation. But Abraham didn't bargain, he just paid it. The land then was deeded to Abraham in the presence of all the Hittites, and Abraham took Sarah and buried her there. This will be his burial place as well, along with several of his descendants. The burial cave is the only property Abraham ever owned in Canaan. We might consider it perhaps a down payment on God's promise that this land would belong to him and his offspring. So what can we learn from this chapter? Well, first, we should handle death with dignity and with faith, because even the faithful die. This chapter feels like a dose of cold water after the triumph of chapter 22. But notice how Abraham handled it. There was mourning, to be sure, as Abraham mourned and wept for Sarah, but he didn't mourn as those who have no hope. Paul will later write in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13, but we do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep, that you may not grieve as the others do who have no hope. He didn't say don't mourn. He said don't mourn as those without hope. We do mourn, of course, but our grief is mixed with faith. We know that death is not the end. While still believing in God's promises, Abraham buried Sarah in the cave of Machpelah. But this wasn't about the real estate. It was about faith in God's plans for his people. We today on this side of the cross can see even more clearly into our heavenly home. Those loved ones who walked before the Lord that have gone on before us will be there waiting for us. They will come back with the Lord. Death, again, is not the end. Our second application is that we are sojourners looking for a better country. Abraham calls himself a sojourner and a foreigner among the Hittites. This reflects his mindset. Even though God promised him the land, Abraham didn't own it yet. He lived in tents. He moved from place to place. Hebrews 11, verse 11 tells us why. These all died in faith, not having received the things promised, but having seen them and greeted them from afar, and having acknowledged that they were strangers and exiles on the earth. For people who speak thus, make it clear that they are seeking a homeland. But as it is, they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly one. Abraham bought a burial plot in Canaan, but he was looking for the city whose builder and maker is God. We should live the same way, living in this world, but not ultimately belonging to it. We pay our mortgages, we raise our kids, we work our jobs, but we know this isn't home. From Hebrews 13 verse 14 we read, "For here we have no lasting city, but we seek the city that is to come." So we might ask of ourselves, am I living like a sojourner? Or have I settled into this world as if it's all that there is? Finally, conduct yourself with integrity, especially in vulnerable moments. Abraham shows remarkable character even during his grief. Notice several things. First, he shows respect to the Hittites, bowing before them and calling himself a sojourner and foreigner among you. He doesn't presume on God's promise that this land will belong to his descendants. He treats the current inhabitants and owners with dignity and honor. Second, he insists on paying full price. The Hittites offer the best of their burial sites free of charge. Ephron offers to give him the field. But Abraham refuses. "I will pay the price of the land. Accept it from me." Whether 400 shekels was Ephron's opening negotiation price or a fair market value, Abraham pays it immediately without haggling. Now, why would that be? Abraham wanted to have clear legal ownership with no questions asked later. He wanted the Hittites to know he was dealing fairly with them. And third, we see that he demonstrates that the example to others, the example that our life is to others, includes how we do business. The Hittites saw a man who honored his wife, showed respect to strangers, and dealt honestly even during grief. Sometimes our testimony isn't what we say about God, it's how we treat people in the ordinary and difficult moments of life. Let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven, Jesus said in Matthew 5 verse 16. Finally, Abraham shows that some things are more important than money. If Abraham overpaid, and he may have, he didn't care. Getting the right resting place for Sarah mattered more than getting a great deal. Some purchases aren't about the lowest price. Sometimes paying fairly and maybe even generously is more important than saving money. Tomorrow, Lord willing, we'll see Abraham's concern for finding the right wife for Isaac and the journey his servant takes to find her. As we contemplate the lessons from this chapter, we continue each day to renew our minds.